Good morning. This is RCB News, and I am Ryan Boland. I want to get right down to the news at hand. I'm going to be reading a portion of an article from the DailyWire in reference to a Netflix series that former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick has made a deal with in reference to the fact that, in his opinion, that the NFL draft, I believe, when they're lining the people up to pick them, is like slavery. Okay. Now, mind you, I watched the first, I'd say 10 minutes of the first episode of this series. I don't plan on watching the entire series. I can't stomach it. But I watched the first 10 minutes of this series and it was just atrocious. I was literally like, my stomach like tied in knots watching this. And I don't want to give away too much of it. Some of you might want to watch it and give your own judgment of it, but I'm not going to, I have no plans on watching the entire series. What I want to do is I want to deal with this slavery mentality that he is pushing and encouraging every time he opens his mouth. I want to talk about that, and I'm going to read a portion of this article from the Daily Wire, and then I'm going to give my comments and my spin on what I believe this is all about. And you guys can chime in the comment box below. The title of the article is ex-NFL player on, quote, evil anti-American Kaepernick. His doctrine is largest threat to black men in U.S. Former NFL player Jack Brewer slammed former NFL player turned left-wing activist Colin Kaepernick during an interview on Monday, saying that Kaepernick's message to young black men in the U.S. is poison. Bingo on that. This new Colin Kaepernick doctrine that's penetrating the minds and hearts of so many of our undeserved black kids across America is the single largest threat to black men in the United States of America, Brewer told Fox News. Because right now, folks are thinking that they're victims and they're living in the most prosperous, the most opportunity in any country in the world. And so this one hurts me because every day I get up and I go out and try to help young African-American boys become men and try to instill those values. And when you have someone like this who has the audacity to call multimillionaires slaves and compare a process of someone living their dream, going to the National Football League, comparing that to slavery, is gone overboard. And I think Colin Kaepernick needs to do some soul searching. You just watch that video, you see how dark it is, and to take the most fragmented, the most vulnerable population we have in America, where we have kids that 70% of them don't have fathers, correct? A lot of them can't read, and their math proficiency level rate is against the third world countries, he added. Kind of messed up the way he said that. You have kids that are already hopeless. And then you go out and push this mentality and you're supposed to be someone that's a leader. Think about the movement that this guy started, the opportunity that he has, that he could actually come in and promote positivity to young black and African-American men and tell them how great this country is. He doesn't have that spirit, and he has an evil anti-American spirit. It is sick and disgusting to watch that, end quote. And I just wanted to end that portion of the article right there, and you can go into the description box below and read the rest of it on Daily Wire. But evidently, this gentleman he's an African American. I don't know I've never seen him. I never seen him. He's an African American, former African American NFL player, and clearly he's a conservative. But what I want to talk about here is I want to chime off of the same principle that this NFL player was talking about, because now me personally, I like watching football, and for years until 2020, I was watching football all the time. Until 2020, we had the lockdowns and so forth, and we had all this social justice mess going on. I didn't even bother, I'm like, I don't want to watch football and see the players kneeling. I don't want to see that, so I didn't bother to watch. I only saw Colin Kaepernick a couple of times playing, like two or three times playing. I think it was the San Francisco 49ers and I only watched him a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, whatever. And he was pretty good. I mean, I'm not, putting the man down as a football player or whatever, anything like that. But I didn't really keep up with him as a football player. During the few times I did see him, I didn't really keep up with him as a football player. I wasn't really into sports like that anyway. I just like to watch football. What I want to talk about is this idea of him becoming this social justice warrior activist. Now, first of all, I believe right off the bat that he's getting paid a substantial amount of money to not be in the NFL, because I know the NFL is not paying him, as far as I'm concerned. If I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know much about the intricacies of the NFL or the sports. I don't know I don't know, but I'm assuming that they're not paying him. So evidently, in my opinion, he must be getting paid as a social justice warrior, because there's no way you would keep spewing this kind of divisiveness among Americans if you wasn't getting some kind of monetary value for it. What bothers me, and I'm chatting off of what this other NFL player said, what bothers me is the fact that Colin Kaepernick is only causing Colin Kaepernick, whatever you want to pronounce his name, is only causing more division in this country. It bothers me when we get people like this who are constantly pushing this idea that America is oppressing black people. What he is doing, far as I'm concerned, based on my studies and my research, what Colin Kaepernick is doing, whether he knows it or not, is he is helping to assist the Marxist agenda that was started in this country decades ago. One of the things that the Marxist communists wanted to do when they infiltrated America, one of the things that they wanted to do, and one of their tactics is to divide the people among factions and division. Marxism is the ideology that every society and every community is made up of those who are oppressed and those who are the oppressor. I've said this before in a former video, okay? Marxists see everything as oppressed and oppressor. In this instance, in America, the oppressor is white people and the oppressed is minority groups and black people in particular, okay? All Colin Kaepernick is doing is, whether he knows it or not, is feeding into the agenda of the Marxists. And what he's doing, he's being used as a tool to further divide us. This whole slavery doctrine is something that happened over 100-something years ago, and he's still feeding off of this same ideology. Just like this other NFL player said, to continuously push this idea of oppressiveness is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous, and Colin Kaepernick ought to be ashamed of himself. He ought to look himself, as he said, in the mirror and ask himself some fundamental questions. What kind of self-loathing do I have that I have to constantly push this agenda that black people are being oppressed in America? I ask people this question, and I ask people this all the time that have that same mentality. Show me today, and I mean really show me, where black people are being oppressed in modern 2021 America by white people. Whether you want to call it institutionalized racism or whatever, because people can never really name that. They could never give any examples of modern institutionalized racism. Back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, yes, of course, because you had the Jim Crow laws in the Deep South created by the Democrats. So yeah, but today, are there any white establishments that you can prove that's oppressing black people? I'll wait. For the most part, you can't. Because there aren't any right now, people. There aren't many. We're being divided against each other. And Colin Kaepernick, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, is just a tool, a mouthpiece for the communist Marxist agenda to divide and conquer this country in order to reshape it and reform it again into a communist one world government and merge it with the United Nations into a communist one world government. That's what he's doing. Because guess what? When the true Marxists come out, the true Marxist revolutionaries come out, they're going to do with him like they did in other countries such as China and Russia and Venezuela, not Venezuela, Cuba, and all these other communist countries that were taken over by communists. Once they're finished using you up, they're going to get rid of you. They don't need you anymore. They're going to get rid of you. What they need you for, you know? I was funny because I was watching a movie some time ago. This is going to be kind of comical, but you'll get the principle. It was called Children of the Corn 3. And it was this little boy who was like a demon in human flesh. And he ended up getting adopted by this family. And at the end of the movie, to make a long story short, at the end of the movie, the father had gained access to his the little boy's cornfield and was going to sell it. He was going to use it and sell it for a profit and make a lot of money. So the little boy was all happy about it. And prior to this, he was all happy and everything, really happy and everything that his adoptive father was going to take his cornfield that he had created and he was going to grow it and expand it all over the world, which is exactly what the little boy wanted. So the little boy was happy. At the end of the movie, the father approaches the boy while the boy has gained access over the minds of hundreds of young people in school. He approaches the boy and he's like, Eli, that's his name. Eli, what's wrong? What's going on? The boy takes a knife and stabs him in the chest and kills him. You want to know why he did that? Because he didn't need him anymore. He used him for what he needed to use him for. And then when he was through using him, he killed him. Guess what, Colin Kaepernick? That's exactly what's going to happen to you. They may not take your physical life, but they will sure discard you because you're no longer needed anymore. You're being used. You're what Vladimir Lenin said, a useful idiot. That's what he's called. I didn't say it. He said it. You're a useful idiot. So it bothers me. So it bothers me when I constantly see this kind of ideology being pushed among our young people. Listen, you can be anything you want to be in this country. We just had a black president for 2 terms. 2 terms, 8 years of his liberal nonsense, but I don't want to get into that because I'm going to upset myself. But we just had a black president. Even before then, even before he became the president, you know, you could still be whatever you wanted to be. Look at all of these celebrities. Look at doctors. And we got black doctors, black lawyers, black business entrepreneurs making millions of dollars, actors, politicians. We have them, people. So why would this man, Colin Kaepernick, constantly push this agenda that we're being enslaved? And watch that video. Just watch the first section of his Netflix series, and you'll see what I mean. Has all these people. I mean, I don't want to give it away. Just watch it yourself. It's just ridiculous. It's stomach churning. There is no connection whatsoever. But what are you guys' opinion on this? Give your opinions in the comment box below. I mean, what do you think about this gentleman, this ex NFL player that was making his rebuttal towards Colin Kaepernick's statement that the NFL is like slavery? You know, what do you think about this? You know, what is your opinion on this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I certainly disagree with Colin Kaepernick's position. He's causing further division and he's being used by the Marxist insurgents. When they're finished with him, they're going to discard him. That's all I see. So, hey, if you guys have any comments, please let your comments be made known. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you all and see you again on RCB News.